Jmath.
The final payment on a loan. So whenever you have a sum about a loan and someone paying it back, they will give you a nice value. So if we look at this one with Rose, they tell you that she's paying 7,000 Rand a month, and they are asking you how many times will she pay it. Now remember, that amount is rounded off. If in real life, if you go to the bank, they will give you an amount with decimals and not nice round numbers. Okay, because that's how the real life works. But in math and in grade 12, the textbooks want to make it nice for you and they give you nice round numbers. But what this means is that even though they tell you this person's going to pay for 5 years or whatever, the last payment is not going to be the same because you're not going to owe a full 7,000 Rand on the last day. It's normally a little bit less, even half of the payment. So that is why we have the final payment type of sums for you to work out exactly what that last payment is. So normally there's, let's say, 23 of the 7,000 Rand payments, and the last one will be a bit less because of interest and all of the other things where they rounded off previously in the sum. So let's take a look at how you would work this out. So in both of these questions, they don't tell me how long the loan period is, and I need to work out how many times do I pay the actual X value that they told me. So that you do with logs. Then the following step is you then take that X value and you work out the outstanding balance for the amount of months or payments that you just worked out. Then when we have the outstanding balance, we are just going to add 1 month of interest. So remember, when you pay a loan, you pay it at the end of the month. But if your final payment happens, then there's still a month left after you paid the last full amount until the loan is settled. So we just need to add interest for that amount. Okay, now I know this sounds extremely complicated. Let's do the sums, and then hopefully you would clearly see why these are the steps. Question 1. Rose borrows 200,000 Rand and pays it back with monthly payments of 7,000 Rand. The interest is 15% per annum compounded monthly. How many full payments of 7,000 will be made, and what is the value of the final payment? So, step 1, we're going to use log. So I know that my PV is 200,000. I know that X is 7,000. I know that I is going to be 15,000 monthly compounded, and they are asking me to work out N. Okay, so just sub in all of that in the formula, and then we're going to work out how many times she had to pay 7,000 Rand. So I subbed in everything, and now I need to use my algebra skills to get N alone. So first thing, I'm going to divide by 7,000 on both sides, and then I'm going to multiply the bottom I value to the left. Now you can choose in how many steps you want to do this. Just to save time on the video, I'm just going to combine into one big step. So if I type that left-hand side in the calculator, it actually tells me this whole thing simplifies to 5 over 14. And I'm going to also simplify this bracket that I have, and that would simplify to 81 over 80, still to the power negative 12. And now I'm going to take the 1 that's in front, I'm going to take it over, and that's going to become a negative, and I'm left with minus 81 over 80 to the power minus 12n. So if I just simplify it a little bit further, I get a minus 9 over 14 equals minus 81 over 80 to the power minus 12n. Yeah, so I'm going to go over into logs, but there's a big problem if everything is minuses. So this minus and this minus will actually cancel out, and then logs will work out. So let's see, the base stays the base, and the other two values swap around. So that's why the 81 over 80 goes there, the 9 over 14 goes there. If I type this in the calculator will tell me minus 12n is equal to minus 35.567. Now, this is something very important you now need to see. So we know that in the formula, when we divide the interest by 12, we need to multiply the years by 12. So that's why that minus 12n is still there. Now, if I wanted to know how many years she paid, then I will divide by 12. So in this case, they don't ask me that. They ask me how many payments will there be. The payments were monthly. So therefore, this equation that I have on screen now, that is the amount of months. So you can divide by 12 to see how many years, but it's actually useless. You are not going to use that amount. So to answer the question, how many full payments of 7,000 were there? So therefore, there were 35 payments of 7,000 Rand. And the last payment, so let me just write that, of 7,000 Rand. And the last payment was a little bit smaller. So let's just do the next two steps. So I need to get the outstanding balance after the last full payment, which was the 35th payment. So I'm going to do outstanding balance for 35 months. So I'm just going to change color so that it's easier for you to keep track with what is going on where. So this is my step 2 to get the outstanding balance. Now remember the outstanding balance formula. You can just check again at the start of this video what that was. And we are just going to sub in everything that we know. And according to the calculator, the outstanding balance after the last payment of 7,000 was made comes to a total of 3931.086 ... I'm not rounding off because that's not the final thing that they ask. Sorry for interrupting myself. I just need to tell you that many schools teach the alternative way to work out the outstanding balance. So this is what you see with the second calculator shot on the screen now. You are welcome to do it the other way. Just be very careful with your decimals in the n value to be 100% accurate. So now remember, this is what I owe at the first day of the last month. But I'm going to make the last payment at the end of that month. So I need to add 1 month of interest to get the final payment. So therefore, step 3, to get the final payment, I am just going to do a compound formula. So final payment, and then I can just say, okay, so the final payment is actually equal to this value with 1 month of compound interest. So I'm just going to say 1 plus 0.15 over 12 to the power 1. And therefore, the final payment on this loan will be equal to 3980.23. So all the other payments, the 35 payments before this was 7,000 Rand, but then the last one needed to be 3980. Okay, I know this seems complicated. Let's try another one and see how this goes. Question 2. Pamela pays back 7,500 Rand quarterly on her loan of 75,000 Rand. The interest is 8.2% per annum compounded quarterly. How many payments will she have to make to settle this loan? And then what is the value of the final payment made 3 months after the last payment of 7,500 Rand? So for question 1, we are just again going to do a log sum to figure out how many payments need to be made on this loan. So let's start. We know that the present value is going to be 75,000 Rand. We know that X is just going to be 7,500. And then I is going to be 0.082. And it's quarterly, so watch out for that one. And then N is what we need to work out. So let's just sub that into the present value formula and see what we get. So the goal with this is to get N alone. Now, once again, I subbed in the -4 there, just because that's the method that we've been using. Divide I by 4, multiply N by 4. But at the end, we're not going to figure out N alone because they don't ask me how many years it's going to take. They ask me how many payments. So let's try and get -4N alone. So step 1, I'm going to divide both sides by 7,500. And that will just give me a value of 10. Then I'm going to multiply by the interest rate over 4. And that will give me 1 minus. If I simplify this bracket, it's actually going to be 1.0205. So I don't know if that's more simplified for you, but you can choose in which form you want to use it. So I'm just going to take this 1 and take it over, type it in my calculator, and then I see this is -0.795 is equal to -1.0205 to the power -4n. The minuses cancel out, and then I can go into log form. So in log form, this would be -4n is equal to log, then the base stays the base, 1.0205, and the others swap around, so like that. And then I can see this log's answer will be -11.305, and then it goes on and on and on. Okay, so remember, we now need to tell them how many full payments of 7,500 were made. So if I get that answer of 11.3, because the minuses would cancel, and remember, I don't need to divide by 4 because I don't need to know the amount of years. So the question asks me how many payments were made to settle this loan. So from this answer, I can see there were 11 full payments of 7,500, but the last one was a bit less. So that would have needed to be 12 payments to settle this loan. 12 payments. Okay, great. Now we can get to question 2. What is the value of the final payment made 3 months or 1 quarter after the last full payment? So the last full payment was made on 11 quarters. So now I can just go and work out the outstanding balance for 11 quarters and then do the compound to find the last one. Do question 2, I would start with the outstanding balance. So I can say the outstanding balance is equal to the total that I borrowed, so 75,000. And then I just put a compound bracket for 11 quarters. So 1 plus 0.082 over 4 to the power 11. And then from that, I'm going to minus a future value. And I know X was just that amount. And then 1 plus 0.082 over 4 to the power 11 minus 1. And I can just type in all of that on the calculator to see what was the outstanding balance just before the final payment. So my calculator tells me they still owe 2258.886 ... on the day the last full payment was made. So the next payment is going to be made 1 quarter later or 3 months later. So therefore, I need to add a compound bracket for 1 quarter. So I can say, therefore, the final payment, okay, so final payment would be equal to 2258.886, and then one of these brackets. Okay, 0.82 over 4, and then just 1 quarter. And then the final payment for these guys are going to be 2305.19 Rand. Great. That is how you work out the final payment of a loan. Please go and have a look at the steps and try and memorize these steps because it's not in a formula sheet. All the separate parts are on the formula sheet. You just need to know how to combine them.
If this video helped you, please like and subscribe.
Jmath.